The definition of stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. Research has shown that there are many factors that contribute to student stress, academics being a primary source. We know that stress can cause physical and mental health issues that can disrupt students' lives. Stress also can be a factor in behavioral concerns and can hinder a student's academic performance. As we have seen in our community, student stress can even lead to suicide. It is important to discuss this topic because it is becoming an increasingly serious issue and is greatly impacting the lives of students.
No, not really. I think the responsibility of the school is to provide education.
I don't think it's just the school's responsibility, but I think they should have a bigger part in it than they're probably currently doing overall. Just because they're the institution that sees the children the most. Like, they probably don't see their parents as much at that point as they're seeing their teachers and their classmates, and since that's where the stress is probably part of it's coming from, they should be able to counteract that, especially with like all the problems we're having with like school shootings and like suicides and stuff like that at that age range. Then I think they need to maybe step it up, and maybe colleges need to start doing more to help the high schools since they're making tons of money off students.
Teacher training, teacher education, hiring and recruiting teachers who and counselors who are competent and well trained and who are committed and dedicated to education. It's not about the social aspect, it's about education. I believe that schools are meant to educate. Parents are meant to provide the ethical and moral backgrounds.
So in terms of stress, you think it's more the parent's responsibility?
Yes.
I think a lot of the stress that comes to students these days stems from this culture that we have not only in schools but in their home life. That the definition of success is based entirely on your academic success and what college you go to, and basically that sets you up for life. And I don't feel like enough maybe alternative methods of educating yourself are explored, or alternative methods of building a career for yourself are explored. So people who do not succeed in the traditional academic sense feel that they are complete failures.
So what might those alternative methods look like?
Vocational schools, even more of an emphasis on possibly going into community college or city college before you go into a four-year university. There might be too much of an emphasis put on going to, like, right out of high school, being able to get into a really good four-year institution, and a lot of kids might think they know what they want to do at that point, and they just might find themselves lost when they go to a four-year institution and just overwhelmed. And being able to take that first step by going to a community college instead would alleviate, I would think, a lot of the stress that comes with the whole application process as well as the high school process. I would say student counseling. First and foremost, student counseling. My experience in high school with student counselors was not great. It was very obvious that, at least at our school, it was very apparent that they really cared more for the students, or at least focused more on the students that were achieving academic success and were trying to get into a UC or an Ivy League school or getting above a 4.0. It seems like if your numbers were, as they put it, a little bit softer, they kind of didn't give you the time of day really, and I don't know.
As far as a change, I would say probably like in my school, we have 1,200 students. We have 3 guidance counselors. My caseload at my school is about 400 students or so, and I think nationally the counselor to student ratio should be somewhere around 250 to 1 counselor. That's 250 students. And so if there was a change, I would definitely support that change. Usually, the less students a guidance counselor has, the more they can check in with their kids, the more they really get to know their students better than when they have a big caseload. And so that would definitely be something that I would support, is having extra guidance counselors in schools.
High stakes testing is huge. Kids feel like they have the summative tests, and if they don't do well on the test, so then they're a failure in school. So they get stressed out. Another thing is kids fall behind, and when they fall behind, they get more and more stressed because you're third, fourth grade, you're 2 grade levels behind already. You start to understand that you're missing some of the skills that you need, and you get frustrated. And the pressure from your teachers, from your parents, adds to the stress level. So the kids. Well, I think we got to get rid of the summative winner takes all testing and go more for the formative testing, where the kids can prove themselves over a week, 2 weeks, that they can master the content. It's not, you need to master the content by this day at this time, and if you don't master by that time, then you have an F or a D. Instead of giving kids multiple ways to show that they've mastered the content or master the skills you need them to master. And it would change the way we do our report cards. It would change a lot about education.
They shouldn't put that much of a workload on students because that's just gonna create more stress for them, because I know they have to balance school and other things, but if they just go easy on the workload that they give their students, I think that would kind of influence students to be a lot better and to do a lot more.
Can make students less stressed and do better in school by giving out less homework, so then they can have more time hanging out with friends or sports or a job. I'm in basketball, and it's hard to hang out with friends and play basketball at the same time while I still have to worry about doing my homework. It's just too much. And students can get help by schools can provide tutor centers, so then they can be on top of their stuff whenever they're in need.
I think that teachers give too much homework and put too much pressure on tests. They don't think about how students have other things to worry about, like friends, sports, family, and other things. Kids can't get enough sleep when they are trying to balance everything. My kids have stayed up late doing homework because they get home late from their sports. Parents put too much pressure on kids to be the best instead of try their best. Kids have enough stress and need support from parents to try their best.
Sure that they understand that there's other options in case they feel like they can't do a higher education after they get out of high school. So maybe set them up for other programs like culinary school or trade schools or workflow programs or something like that. And then making sure too that in school, because it's so stressful, that they have outlets to do. So if you take away extra band and sports and art, things that they can do for fun to kind of get away from just studying, and make sure that there's after school programs and people in place that are trained in mental health, so the kids can have someone to talk to that they trust.
I think just being approachable, is the hardest thing. I think sometimes teachers act more as authority than peers. And I think that's a problem because then kids are too scared to approach their teachers. So I think getting on the same level as them is important.
the teachers like had an extra 5 minutes after class that all the students can like go up to them and ask all their questions during class, so that we won't be like as confuzzled afterwards.
By telling students about the test the weekend before so that the kids have time to study for the test. And I also think that teachers should leave time in class for the students to work on their homework. And I also think that the teachers should leave like 5 minutes at the end of the class just for questions, because a lot of students don't understand the homework and it's really stressful.
We could have homework on every other day of the week, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
And on those days have like a little bit more homework than we normally have, so it'd be like 2 days of homework but less stress.
I think that schools have to consider participation and effort. Especially in high school, it is so easy to grade an essay or project based on other people's grades or other people's works. Teachers have to consider how much work and effort was put into it. High school is super important. It is the time of your life. You need to get the confidence to strive big and achieve in college. If you have a bad 4 years, how can you expect any kind of improvement or success in college?